All right, we are live for a crazy 10:45 start time. I don't know who's up. I am. This is good practice because I will be up midnights during the college football season. I can't believe I just agreed to that. But that's what we're going to be doing. If you're a college football fan and you're up at midnight on Saturday nights, then check us out over on the Arled's Football Network. Okay, so we have some interesting things happening today with the qualifying being rained out. And it really is just a terrible situation because when we talked on Tuesday, and if you don't know about it, again, check out our Tuesday show. That's where we go over everything in depth. We give our initial picks on the week. Matter of fact, let's pop up what our picks were. CJ, we're doing from RotoWire. He is our main analyst, and there are the picks. Okay, the 60, 30, 10, we basically put $100 each, and that's how we break it down. Now, I would think CJ, like me, probably want to get rid of that long shot pick, but we'll get into why in just a little bit. So what happened was, because of the situation where they rained out, of course, you know what that means in qualifying. We got to go back to the silly metric. And if you didn't have a good week last week, you're in the back, basically. Speaking of the back, there were 3 drivers who failed inspection. Austin Hill and Connor Zilic, their teams failed it twice. Russ Chastain for 3 times. So, and Chastain was starting 13th. So he's not only going to be starting in the back, but he's going to have to park the car. Well, he's got to go through the pits. And so he's going to be down at least a lap to start the race. And he practiced. Did he practice well, Chastain? Yeah, he actually practiced well too. Okay. So yeah, that's what went on today, unfortunately. And what a bad timing for this to take place, where of all weeks to have no qualifying at a track that NASCAR hasn't seen for over 30 years in a points race, almost 30 years. Of course, we've been in the all-star races for a few years, and we talked about that on Tuesday's show, but that is just a different animal. What we've seen so far, unfortunately, with the racetrack at the all-star festivities, not very exciting, and track position meaning a whole lot, which is again why it's kind of difficult to handicap, unless of course you know that there are some drivers that you were expecting to be good this week, on Sunday, tomorrow, that will be in good position because of qualifying and also how did they do in practice. So we're going to get into that, but this is the starting lineup, just so you know. So you've got Blaney, who won last week. So there he is, Gibbs, Bell. Denny Hamlin is 7th. Logano, who should be a really good option this week, is 11th. There's Chastain. He'll be in the rear. Byron, he's a contender. There's Keselowski. There's Wallace. Kyle Larson, he's starting 27th. He's like Wallace and Larson, but especially Larson is the one because he has a lot of success, of course, on the short tracks. And he was a short-priced driver on Tuesday. He was 6-1. He was the 4th driver, odds-wise. So he's going to have the worst luck starting 27th. Okay, so that's qualifying, which was rained out. So now let's pop up practice. So this is all. Now it was about a 50-minute practice, something like that. And what we have here is Christopher Bell, my top pick. I feel really good right now about where he stands. And then you have CJ's top pick, Denny Hamlin, in second. Byron had a good practice session. So did Elliott. Gibbs, those are all good contenders. Larson was 7th. Again, he's got to start pretty far back. There's Logano, Blaney 11th. Cindric is a nice long shot. Hocevar, who gets to start in the top 5, but did not have a great run, just an average one. And Bubba was very disappointing at 18th, so that's a really bad sign, especially since he's starting way back. And Eric Jones, same thing. He gets to start up front, but unfortunately, his practice run, not good to take advantage of it. And there's Chase Briscoe and Tyler Reddick, especially Reddick, a very disappointing 31st. Okay, so there you go. So what did we find out? Well, in practice, you got the top 2 drivers with Toyotas. Why not, right? And then you have Chevy, Ford, the top 7. Now, this is interesting. Ford did not have a driver in the top 7, but as you can see here, let's see, right here, starting 8. Okay, they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So they ended up with 5 in the top 12. And so that tells you that don't count out Ford. Okay, so let's now take a look at the odds and the positioning. Okay, so as we break this down, Blaney is the second choice at 4-1. And then you have Bell is the top choice, starting third at 3-1. Hamlin, now all of a sudden you're thinking maybe Hamlin's a bargain at 5-1. I'm actually surprised Denny Hamlin's 5-1, considering he was second fastest in practice, and who cares that he's starting 7th? That's not a big deal. So I'm a little bit surprised by that. So you might want to take advantage of that. I think those odds are going to go down before tomorrow. So jump on that if you like Hamlin. And then you see the rest. Gibbs, a very solid play there at 12-1. And Elliott, also a very solid play at 14-1. So you might want to take advantage of some of those drivers right there. Gibbs and Elliott getting good odds starting in the top 10. And both of them had practice speeds in the top 10. All right. Hocevar, not really. Look, the one thing about Hocevar that he's got going for him is he won last year's Open. Okay. But that's really all we have. Now, the track that we did talk about, 2 tracks that were the most similar, that we believe, that CJ believes is the most similar to North Wilkesboro, is Richmond and Martinsville. We had Martinsville this year and Richmond last year. So that's kind of what we looked at. And then there was a couple other tracks I was looking at myself, but, we won't get too much into that. I guess, I can tell you, I looked at Phoenix and New Hampshire as other possible tracks, but I wouldn't bank on it. I just looked at it for specific reasons that we don't need to get into. But anyway, I just figured, you know what? Let's just stick with Richmond and Martinsville, and Phoenix and New Hampshire could be looked at as like bonuses. Okay, so that's the top 10. And then here are the contenders. Logano starting right outside the top 10 and 11th at 8-1. 9th in practice, as I mentioned. Okay, don't forget, Chastain is starting in the rear. He'll be a lap down. Probably should be more than 50-1, but again, a good practice run. So there's Cindric, like I said, a good long shot. Byron's a good play, 16-1. Unfortunately, starting a little bit back. He's got other drivers ahead of him that are in a much better position. And then there's Larson. I'm very surprised Kyle Larson is 8-1. He was 6-1 on Tuesday. Now he starts 27th and he's 8-1. Okay, no value there. And then there's Briscoe at 22-1. So let's kind of quickly go through this. Where are we? Okay, let's just quickly go through this. So Blaney has now a run of 10 straight of 11th or better, including the dominating win last week. He was 3rd at Richmond last year, 6th at Martinsville this year. So that's really good. Question is, now that Blaney's won, will his streak continue? I don't see any reason why not. Matter of fact, maybe he's ready to win a 2nd straight. So but 4-1, short price. Hamlin, Now, he's cooled off a little bit, not as much as Reddick, but just a little bit. But he was second at Martinsville this year and 10th at Richmond last year. It's just that I think Denny has just put that run in where he won the 3 in a row, and I don't know. But the good thing is he's 5-1. If you can get him at 5-1, you might want to take advantage of that. Christopher Bell, he's red hot, and that's the reason why I really liked him. He's red hot plus 7th at Martinsville this year, and he's got in his last 3 races second, 5th. So he's so overdue for a win. And he's going in here as the car to beat after what we saw today in practice. Okay. But 3-1. It's a really low number. 4-1 was low enough on Tuesday. 3-1, especially when you have to deal with so many other potential drivers that could beat you. And we have no data here at all as far as last year's race, earlier this year. Nothing. We've got all-star races, opens. That's just not good enough. So, there's a lot to kind of, think about when it comes to handicapping this race. Okay. Elliott. Now, Elliott was 8-1 on Tuesday, and now he's 14-1. Now, keep in mind, Elliott won at Martinsville this year. He also has not had a top 5 in his last 9 races since his Texas win. But you look at it, and he's had 5 straight results between 11th and 17th. So it's not like he's been a disaster. He's been very consistent this year. And then throw in, his wins and especially the victory at Martinsville. And at 14-1, considering he is 10th in the starting lineup. And in practice, he is 5th fastest. And I think he's an excellent play at 14-1. Okay, next up, again, Larson. Well, actually, we'll hold Larson for now. We'll stay on this board here. Reddick, 16-1, but he was so slow in practice. And considering he's in the biggest rut of the year, we've been talking about that for weeks. Only 1 top 5 in his last 7. But he was 8th last week. We'll see whether or not that helps. 15th at Martinsville, 34th at Richmond last year. I don't know. Just doesn't feel right, but he is 16-1. Again, the practice speed is the real killer. Also in this group, you have Gibbs. Gibbs won the 2024 Open race, led 100 laps. He was 2nd in the 2023 Open and led 53 of 100 laps. In his last 3 races coming in, 4th, 8th, and 3rd. And he was 4th at Martinsville. So there is a lot to like about Gibbs. Keep in mind, he was 25-1 on Tuesday. And now he is sitting there half the price. So CJ got him at a really, really good price. Not Bubba. Passing on. Hocevar, 3rd last week. So, he comes in a little momentum. It's only his 2nd top 5, though, in his last 10 races since his Talladega win. 11th at New Hampshire last year. 17th at Martinsville this year. So not a lot to go on as far as the short track career for Carson Hocevar. But look, he's getting better. He's going to start up front. But he's 18-1. He was 33-1 on Tuesday. I mean, why? Because he was put into 4th. Now we're going to drop him to 18-1 when he practiced 15th. Doesn't seem like good value there. Moving on. Buscher's 40-1, but he hasn't had a top 5 in his last 9 races. 4 top 10s in his last 6, though. Still not a whole lot to go on with Chris Buescher in this situation. You are getting 40-1, though. Buescher was 10th in practice. So not the worst idea in the world for a long shot. SVG, meanwhile, 125-1. Now, he was 14th at Richmond last year and 11th at Martinsville this year. So that's not bad for SVG. Plus, he'll be starting in a good position. Unfortunately, his practice speed was just 17th. And Eric Jones, who in his last 6 non-road races has an 8.6 average. All that's great. But he was 21st at Martinsville this year and 26th at Richmond last year. The difference is his racing has really picked up lately since then. You want to keep that in mind. And he's a big number. Unfortunately, he was only 26th in practice. But he's a big number. I'd be willing to throw a buck on him. Why not? Let's move on. Joey Logano. So Logano was clearly like our top wise guy pick, if you know that term. Second in the 2025 All-Star race, led 139 laps. First in the 2024 All-Star race, led 199 200 laps. In his last 2 races, he's finished 9th and 12th, which ties for his second best 2-race results back-to-back of the season, if you could believe that. He was 3rd at Martinsville, which was his best result, tied with Daytona, and 4th at Richmond last year. He was also 4th at New Hampshire last year, leading 147 laps, if you want to consider that. So that's why, and he was 16-1 on Tuesday. Okay. So we really liked him on Tuesday a lot at 16-1. Still like him at 8-1. Absolutely. I would definitely play Joey Logano. Okay. And that was my second pick earlier this week. So I'm staying firm pat with that one. Next up, well, there's Chastain. And his average is 12.3 in his last 6 races with a couple of top 10s. He was 11th last week. So he is starting to run better, and he had a good practice run 3rd. But he's going to be so far behind. It's just such a short position, means so much on this track. I just find it really hard to believe they'd be able to pull this off. He might have to do some sort of weird strategy play in order to be in position, and maybe he can figure that out. Cindric, meanwhile, I think he's a pretty decent long shot to consider. He's got a 14.5 average in his last 6 races, and he finished 8th at Martinsville and 5th at Richmond last year. Byron is another one that we like. In his last 3 races, he's finished 16th, 4th, and 12th. And believe it or not, that's his best 3-race stretch since March. That's what kind of dry spell he's been on. He finished 5th at Martinsville. So I think he is a solid play because you're getting good odds. And he had a 4 practice run. Again, the problem is there's so many other options ahead of him. That's the problem. But at least you're getting 16-1. And in Wallace, you can see him there. He was 2nd in the 2023 All-Star race and the 2024 Open. 6th in the 2024 All-Star race. In his last 6 races this year, he's been up and he's been down. He's had 6th, 3rd, and 2nd, and 21st, 22nd, 29th. Very inconsistent. On the negative side, not good results at all at Martinsville and Richmond. And the practice speed tells you, especially with everything going on at Wallace, this is not going to be a good week for Bubba Wallace. There's no way I would pick him right now. Kyle Larson, mentioned him. And again, like I said, you're just not getting any value at all right now. And keep in mind, he is coming in back-to-back 34th place finishes. It's been a dreadful stretch for Larson. He was 9th at Martinsville, 6th at Richmond. And he was 7th fastest in practice. But he's starting 27th. And as I said, you were getting no value. Zane Smith did finish 11th at Richmond last year. Chase Briscoe, meanwhile, came into last week's race 2nd and 1st in his previous 2. 14th at Martinsville, 13th at Richmond. But he had a really slow practice time, and he's going to start way back. Does not look like a good option. Okay. Let's now pop up our fantasy lineup. All right. So I haven't even done this yet. So let's see. What would we do? Well, we're definitely going with Bell. And let's go to the bottom. I always like going to the bottom. All right. What do we see here? Now, Austin Dillon did win Richmond last year. Dillon will be starting. Where is Dillon starting again? Let me see where Dillon is. Dillon will be starting 12th. And what was his practice run? Dillon, 22nd. Not very good. Still an option if you're looking for a cheap one. Okay, let's see. There's Zane, 6,500, but he did not have a good practice run either. Just 23rd. SVG, 68. Eric Jones, again, I think he's a potential option at 66. He's got good position. There's Cindric. I think Cindric's a pretty decent option. I mean, nobody jumps off right now, but we're gonna have to grab a couple. All right, let's see. I definitely want Logano, especially since he's starting 11th. That's not bad. And let's see. All right, I'm going to really have to find some bargains down here. So let's see. Yeah, it's just going to be tough this week. Again, the data just makes it really hard. I mean, Dillon starting 12th, not going to get a lot of positions there. But we'll get positions with Zane Smith, Bowman. Let's see, where's Bowman? Because Bowman, if you look at Alex Bowman, he was second at Richmond last year, and he had 2 top 10 in his last 3 races. So let's see, where's Bowman? 25th, which is good for fantasy, and 16th for practice. It's not totally bad. So he's an option, especially since he's starting 25th. Let's put him in there. There's Cindric, 14th. Yeah, it's not bad. 14th. Where was Cindric here again? Yeah, he had those good runs at the other 2 tracks. So let's put him in there. And now, how many do we have? 16,000 left. Okay, so we probably aren't going to be able to grab anyone up there. So what about Gibbs? 85. What does that leave us with? 76. That's not bad. Okay, so let's see. Who could we grab here? Yeah, I guess we are getting down to some of these drivers. Not good. SVG, but he was kind of slow. I'd consider Berry for reasons I'm not going to get into, but he's had such a bad year. But I mean, he could be an option. Let's see. I wonder. I've never been in this situation before. I wonder whether or not they're going to change that to the rear. Interesting. Never been in that situation before. It's the first year I've been playing this, so let me know. What do they do when the driver goes to the rear? Do they change it and put him where he should be? Because they should. He's not going to start 13th. Okay, let's see. Briscoe's starting 30th. But he's a little expensive because I only have 76. I might have to drop someone. So, but just on times, for time's sake, I might just go ahead and just take Zane Smith. So that's going to be because he's 29th. So there you go. That would be our, right now, of course, I can change. I've got all the way till tomorrow night to figure it all out. Bell, Logano, Bowman, Cindric, Gibbs, and Zane Smith. Okay. So anyway, we hope everybody, I hope you guys were able to get all this in. Once again, unfortunately, no qualifying. We'll see if there's any rain tomorrow night. I'm not going to do what I did last week, which was stay up all the way till 2 o'clock in the morning. I did it last week because it was an exciting race and my driver, my boy, was dominating. So I was not going to go to sleep. But on this track, I will definitely call it a night and watch it in the morning. So hopefully we'll get through it without any delay. In the meanwhile, thanks again. Don't forget to subscribe, of course, and check out the link in the description because CJ has his updated DFS report from rotowire.com. So you can go right now, click the link, and you'll be able to read his story and find out what he had to say when he put it together on Friday. He puts it before practice and qualifying. So check that out. And then we'll see you on Tuesday as we do it all over again, 4 o'clock every Tuesday, right here on ProLine TV. So best of luck, everybody, tomorrow. And we'll see you guys